Hello, everyone. I am so glad you spent time away from everything else in this busy season to come out tonight for our paint night. I'm going to videotape our project so we can project it on the big screens so everyone can see me and hear me. And while we are making our creation, I will be walking around and helping each of you. So I look forward to the art that you're going to create. And I'm thankful for you being here, because by you being here, you are blessing my friends, Diego and Claudia, as they work on their visa to return to the United States to be missionaries at VCU, working with College Ministries of Virginia. They are going to specialize in taking care of the international students in that community and bringing people to Christ. So thank you for being here. And let's get started. At every table, you will find a canvas board. This is got 11 by 14. It's a flat canvas board, so you'll be able to frame it. It's going to make a great gift for someone for Christmas time or a nice keepsake for you. So go on and pick up your canvas board. You will also notice all of you have a cup of water. You're going to have 3 brushes at your table. You got a big flat brush. You got a medium flat brush, and then you got 1 small pointer brush. And that's all you're really going to need. There are paper towels for you, and then you're going to have a paper plate. That is going to be your color palette. That's where you're going to put your colors on. And so make sure you have all of those. And then we're going to let you have a few minutes to pick out your paint, and I will help you get the paint that you want for your project. Okay, now that you've got all your supplies and the paint color that you want, you're going to pick which way you want to paint it. You can paint it like this, landscape, or you can turn it like this and do it portrait. I'm going to follow the portrait example, but I'm going to help you figure it out. So I forgot to mention, everybody has a pencil. Now, when you do your sketch with your pencil, you don't want to press hard. It's just a light touch to try to get your symmetry where you want to place stuff on your canvas. So let's see. We're going to adjust this, and we're going to mainly try to get as much as we can on here so you can see it. There we go. So when I look at the picture, I'm going to want a tree branch, a Christmas tree branch coming out, and then I want a ball hanging from it. Doesn't matter where you put your branch or your ball. So if you're doing it landscape, you're going to bring the branch either from this way or that way. If you're going to do it portrait, same thing, branch one direction or the other with a ball. You can center the ball, you can put it on either side, doesn't matter. But the main thing is you want to leave space at the top, space at the bottom, and the sides, a border. You do not want your stuff to be completely off center. So what I like to do when I'm painting, I like to just draw lightly draw a line through the middle, and then, kind of guess across so I can get the center or close to it. So I know where to place stuff. So I'm going to look at my picture, but each piece of art is going to look completely different because we're all different. So I'm just going to say, okay, if I know I want the branch to come in from this direction, I'm just going to bring that branch around. And I want it to go about there. Remember, border, border. Then I want a second branch to come down. And I'm barely touching my canvas, just to get some space. Then I'm going to space where that hook is going to go, top of my ball, and then I want my ball to be pretty big. So I'm going to bring that ball around. Now, that looks good. I like where everything's placed. It's falling down. But anyway, so I'm going to look at that and just see if I like where everything is. And I'm like, yep, I think that's going to be okay. So your ball is going to be on the bottom part. Your tree branch is going to be on the top part. You're going to want to place the ball top kind of in the middle of your composition. So go on and take a minute and do that. That you won't need your pencil anymore. You could share it with your neighbor if theirs broke. The next thing we want to do is prepare our canvas for painting. I'm going to use my big brush because this is going to take the least amount of time. I'm going to dip my brush in my water, and then I'm going to tap the excess water off. And then I'm just going to gently go back and forth over the canvas. You don't want it dripping wet. And see, it's not even taking the pencil off. It's just wetting my canvas. That way my paint will go on easier. And I won't have to use as much paint. So just some water on your canvas. Very good. So that's step one. Take your big brush, dip it in the water, tap, 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 and then brush. It doesn't matter which way you go, but you want to make sure you get all your canvas, but not so wet that it's dripping. Very good. Now you're going to pick your background color. It doesn't matter what color you pick. In the picture that we're using as our template, it's black. So I'm just going to use black in mine. You don't need a lot. There's black on every table, but you're just going to put a little bit. You don't need a whole bunch. 2 little drops will probably be enough. If you want to do dark blue, just make sure your background is dark because you want the contrast. So I'm going to take my brush, it's wet, and I am going to load my brush with a wet brush. See how much water is in that? And I'm just going back and forth with the big fat brush. We have lots of paper plates, so I'm just going to use this for the background, and then I'll use a different plate for my foreground. And I do not want to cover the ball in black, because then that's going to be hard to paint over. It's going to be too dark. But everything else can be covered up. You're just going to be like, well, then I can't see my lines. That's okay. You got a general idea of your placement of them. That was just to get the ball in the right place. So I'm going to circle. I'm going to start by circling around my ball. And if you take your brush and just, when it starts to run out of paint, pick it back up. And then your nice edge will come from this side of the brush. This little point right here is what you're going to line up on the outside of your ball. You don't want to have too much water where it runs. See, it's bleeding a little bit. Make sure your paint's not runny. All right, and I'm just going to go around and make my ball. If it's too runny, dry your brush off a little bit on your paper towel. Round we go. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just mainly want to leave a space for that big, beautiful Christmas ball. Once you got your circle, then you can go on and fill in the rest of your canvas with the background color. Take the paint all the way up to the edge. If you get a little bit on the tablecloths, no big deal. That's why we have tablecloths, so I can throw them away. If you have a little bleeding on the edges, don't worry about it. Just no runs, not so much water you have runs. If you happen to get a run on your canvas, just use your paper towel, a piece of your paper towel, and blot it up. So you just want a light coat. Nothing heavy yet. While your paint is still wet, and that's why it's so important for your canvas to be damp, you can add, just go back and forth, clean up those brush strokes. I'm doing mine in ovals around, but you could do little X marks like this, back and forth X's, if you like that technique better. But I'm going to just choose a round because I think that looks nice. Once you put your first coat on, if you want it a little bit darker, go back in, add another drop of paint to your plate with the same brush but a little drier. Don't put any more water on it. Go back in, and you can clearly see the difference between a really light coat or the darker coat. But it goes on a lot smoother if you do the first coat and then go back in and do your second one. And so you can darken up that background. You can do a little shading. And then stop messing with it. You do not want to keep touching up the edges of your circle because you'll end up making your circle smaller and smaller and smaller till it's not big enough. So just let that be. Once you got your background color on, we're going to let that dry for a minute. You're going to take your brush, and in your cup, you're just going to swish it around. Swish, 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 swish. Vigorously, but hold your cup so you don't, knock it over all over the table. You're going to clean that brush out. Since we started with a dark color, we're not going to want to use this dark water again. So what you're going to do, you're going to just set this cup aside, get it out the way, and use your second cup that has clean water in it. You're going to take your brush and just press it into your paper towel on both sides to get the excess water out. Black or darker colors, it takes a few minutes to get them out of your brush bristle. The brush bristle. So you shouldn't see a whole lot of transfer color if you've rinsed it out good. All right, so just set that brush aside. We're going to use that later. Remember, do not use this water again. We start with clean water. I'm going to go get my clean water. All right, so now we want to get our Christmas lights on there. Little twinkly lights. I like multicolored lights. You might like all white lights. I don't know. But if you use some color, that will really help this composition pop. So I have got another paper plate, a clean one, and I have picked my colors for my Christmas lights. Green, red, blue, and some white. We want them in the background in different stages. So things far away or smaller, and then they get bigger as they come to us. Now I'm going to take my brush, and let's start with a little blue one. I'm going to start with my lightest color and move to my darkest colors. So I'm going to start with my blue, and I'm going to load my brush like this. Just drag it at the corner of my dot, then flip it over and drag it again. And then flip it over, drag, 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 drag. So then That's called loading your brush. I've loaded my brush. It has paint in the bristles, right? But then I want to highlight it. So on one side only, I'm going to take it to the white at the very corner and just drag it. I'm going to do it twice. So now I have white on one side with some color and then the solid color. And then watch this. And you can practice on your plate if you don't want to mess it up. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure it works. I'm going to take my brush, put it straight on my plate, and then I'm going to twirl it. And then I'm going to get a little circle. And it naturally has some highlight to it. So I'm going to try that again. Just spin it around, and there's my little circle with some highlight. So I'm going to go back in. I'm going to put a little more white on it. And I think I'm ready to try. So I'm going to place, it doesn't really matter where, because these are going to be just kind of here and there. I'm going to do a little blue one up in the corner. I'm just going to twirl it around. Whoop, look at there. And then I'm going to put another one over here. Twirl it around. Then I'm going to get some more. Now you got some black on your brush, so they're going to change the color a little bit. I'm going to put some blue. And go back and do white. I want another one. Let's see how this one looks. So just little colors. So you should have white, blue, and a little bit of darkness to some of them with the black that's mixing in. All right, so let's see, how many of them do I want? So just play with one color at a time. And just put them in the background. Once you get a couple of little small ones that you like, add some more paint and then make a few that are a little bigger in size. So what you're going to do to make it bigger, you're going to apply more pressure to your brush. So let's put a big one right down here. And I'm just going to flatten that brush out a little more. And just made it a little bigger. That's all I did to it. Again, you don't want any paint running, so make sure your brush is not too wet. I might put another big one over here. Let's do a big one over here. You just stick them wherever you want. We're making happy little twinkly lights. I think that's all the blue ones I want. I'm going to move to green. So I'm going to take my brush and swish, 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 swish. Tap the water off of it. And then tap it on your paper towel. Both sides. And go to the next color. I'm going to do some greens. Load your brush. Add the white. And let's do a green one down here. Whoop, and that one's a little messy, so I'm just going to go over it and clean up that edge a little bit. Go get me another twinkly light, and I'll do a little teeny one right there. Little teeny one. Another little teeny one back here. Little teeny. And those are dark. See, they're in the back, and I'm leaving some of the black or whatever color coming through it. Little teeny one here. Try not to bring your lights too far down, because we want most of them up here. You don't need any lights down at the bottom. Make that one. And a big one. You can even do a half one over on your border, like that. It's going off the page some. Touch that one up a little bit. Then I'm going to do red. Just do one color at a time. Don't go back and forth. I Save the red for last because that one is going to have the darkest pigments in it. You can even get them close together, or some of them overlap each other. That would be a nice effect. And a little teeny one back there, way in the back. A little teeny one back here. Nice bright one right there. So I think I like my little lights. Check a look at my template, see what that looks like. A few that are a little darker. So with my dirty brush, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to hit a little bit of that black that I had used before on my plate and pick some of that up and muddy this up a little bit. And I'm just going to have some that are, you know, just twinkling in the back, but they got a lot of darkness to them. Just some. Not sure. Barely see them. Just a lot of black on them. And then let's see. Maybe I want to make sure the main thing is you don't want them all one color. You want either a little white or a little black in them. After you get them on your page, you might even want to take your smaller brush. So you can take this little pointy brush, just put a little white on it. You can even go in and add a little more white. And you're just going to circle that in. So you can shade them up a little bit with your little skinny brush. You can bring in some more dimension to it. By highlighting them and throwing some white on them. Or if you want a little more color in them, you can go back and touch them up, add some shading to them. Just play with them. They're little twinkly lights in the back. Remember, we had at least two branches. You can do more, doesn't matter. So the next color we're going to add is brown. So I'm just going to put a little teeny bit of brown. Don't need much of this at all because I only got two branches. So I'm going to take my brown paint and I'm using my little teeny pokey brush. And I'm going to have two branches. I want one to come through here, starting from this corner. Doesn't matter which direction you go in. You're going to twirl your brush and get it fully loaded. Now, it's going to get thinner the farther you go. It's going to start off fat, but my hand naturally wants to go this way. It doesn't matter which way you go. I'm going to start from here. I want that branch. Let me see. First, I want to figure out which one I want my ball to be hanging from. Let me go look at my picture again. All right, good. So this is the branch my ball is going to be hanging from. So I'm going to go from the ball up. And I want to make sure there's a branch here. So I'm just going to put a dot. And then I want my branch to go about that far. So I'm going to put a dot over there. And then I want it to come off the page about right here. So now I'm going to connect the dots. I'm going to take this and I'm going to take my branch all the way up. If it starts to dry out, put some more paint on it. Go right through whatever's on that. Doesn't matter. And there's my branch. Just one little branch stem, a little stick. I have a stick. I don't have a branch yet. And then I want my second branch to come down. So go back over to your ball, come up a little bit, off to the side, and put your first dot. Then put a dot right above this branch. So I'm going to connect these two dots, just like that. Really cool, see? Let everybody get your little branches on there. Then you're going to rinse that out, and you're going to get 2 shades of green. You're going to get a dark green. Oops, I bet I stopped recording. Let me go back and look. Nope, it's still recording. Okay, so dark green, a light green. I still have plenty of light green. Oops. And then some white as highlight. You always want highlight and low light, so a little bit of black and a little bit of white. And we're going to use our little pointy brush again. I'm going to take my dark green first. I'm just going to add a little bit of dark green, and then I'm just barely going to touch it in that black. I'm going to come over here and blend those two. So it's nice. And then I'm just going to come up. Doesn't matter if you start whatever in. You're going to place it and then flick it. Place it and pull it out. Little short. We're making pine needles. Don't press hard. Just get your paint on there. And they can go in different directions. Think of your Christmas tree. You're going to do that all the way up in your dark green. All kinds of different directions. And the lighter you touch, the skinnier they'll be because you'll lift up. So you touch, lift up. Touch, lift up. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do this branch. Christmas tree, oh Christmas tree. And the more, now I'm doing green with no black. Just getting some leaves on there. If it gets too fat, it's because you got too much paint in it. Go back and twirl it some more. Get some of that paint out. You want them skinny. In every direction. Just back and forth, back and forth. Fill in that Christmas tree. After you get enough dark on there, and we can do this as much as needed, take your light green and start doing those. You're not going to want to cover your branch all the way up. You want to see a little brown in the background, but you can definitely, you know, put a lot of leaves on there. Once you get some light green on there, we're going to go on and take your light green and touch it to the white and make that even lighter. So you got lots of dark in the background and light ones coming from all directions. Beautiful Christmas tree branch. And then go back in and get some even whiters. Just, there's your highlight ones, just a few little white ones in there. Let me look at their painting. Go back and see if I'm getting close. So we want lots of twinkly little white highlights. So rinse your brush out and just do some white. I'm going to add a little more white because mine's looking a little muted. See if we can brighten that up. All right, here we go. Just tip. Let's see. So you're going to put a little white on the end of them. On the end of your branches, your leaves, just a little bit more white. We really want to be able to see some highlight in that. Now I'm kind of liking it. If you have mistakenly covered up your branch too much, you can go back in with a little brown and then just hit it in a couple of spots down the middle to make that branch more noticeable if you want to, like that. So I have my little twinkly lights. Oop, that one's, might want to run a little bit. We don't want that. Let me fix that. So I have twinkly lights in the background. So once you have your branch over your lights, you can look and say, you know, there's a spot over here that might need a little something. Or I might need a couple more little lights over here. Go on and play with that. I mean, use what little bit of paint you got left in those accent colors. And you can add whatever you want. You know, I'm going to put a few more lights in the background, and I'm going to maybe shade a little more in some of those. You mainly just don't want them to be all one color. You want to make sure there's darkness and lightness throughout your little lights. And so I have a little bit of blue paint left over, so I'm going to use some of that up. What you don't want to do is put any lights on top of your branch. We want all the lights to be in the background. We do not want any in the foreground. Oh, now here's an example. I had too much water. I have a run. I'm going to stop that run right there. I'm going to stop it in its tracks. There you go. Let's see. All right, I'm happy with my Christmas lights. I think they look fine right where they're at. There are some that I want to put a little more white in. If I'm looking at them, I'm going to use my pointy brush, twirl it around, just get it on the tip, and I'm going to put some white rings around my lights. Just a few of them. Just to give them a little more character. I think they look good. All right. We're going to let the top part of our canvas dry now. We're not going to do anything else to this. Just let it dry. Now we're going to work on our ball. Pick whatever color ball you want. I'm going to have a red ball because red's my favorite color. So I'm going to put some red there. Don't need a lot. I'm going to start off with my big fat brush. We're going to go back to the big fat brush. Make sure I am still taping. Yep. I'm going to load it up both sides. One side, then the next side. right? And I'm just going to go to my edges first because I want to try to get those edges in there with the side of my brush. See, like that. Just take your brush edge all the way up to the edge and then start moving it around. Go back over it if you need to. So, start from the outside. I need more of that. Doesn't matter what color your ball is, you pick. Make sure you have enough paint on your brush where it will, you'll get a nice outside line with the corner of your brush, the side of your brush. If you are painting flat with your hand, make sure you work away, drag this way. If you're left-handed, you're going to work this way, or otherwise you're going to get paint on your hand. It's kind of like painting yourself in a corner. You don't want to do that. Just like with the background color, you start with a light coat, and then you adjust your brush, the brush strokes to get the texture you want. I'm doing curves. Now, I don't want that to be all one dimension, which is what it is right now. I need to change it up a little bit. So I want to add dark and light highlights. So that's what I'm going to do. First, I'm going to do some dark. I have a little bit of black paint left that hasn't completely dried. So I'm going to muddy my brush up in that and get it darker. Now, you can add a little bit of black, but you still want to have a little bit of the color you want. So the darkness is on the edge of my brush. I'm going to take it in the bottom corner, and I'm just going to make a line. And I'm going to make another line. Go back and forth in that corner. Now, I don't have enough black, so I'm going to go back and adjust. And put some black in there. But I still want to use my red, so just a little teeny bit of black. Doesn't take a whole lot. So let's see what that looks like. If I just go, now that might be too dark. But that's why you want to play in this corner, because you can go dark in this corner as dark as you want. And then the more red I get into it, the lighter it's going to get. So I'm going to start in this corner. And if you're not comfortable with the big brush, you can go down to the smaller size. Whatever's easier in your hand. And then I'm going to just bring this line in and shorten it each time until it comes like a point. That's as far as I want to go with it. And you can blend it on both sides a little bit by going back in and just gently brushing back and forth. Shape that. I got some loose paint down there. I'm going to shape that up a little bit. Get your shadow in there. Take your other brush, take another brush, and make sure I get all the dark paint out of it. Dry it off good. And you can even go back in there and just go back over it like that, and it will even soften up that blend a little better. I got too much paint in that corner right there. Going. So I got, some dimension now. Now I want to take a little bit of that shading around the bottom on this other side. So I'm just going to bring a little bit of black and red together and drag it along the bottom of that ball. A little bit of shading. If you go too dark, like that, it's a little dark, then you just go back in and put some more red on top of that. Get rid of some of that black. So you really can't mess it up. You just go back in and you can change the level of shading you want. You can keep playing with it. But the acrylic will dry. Once it dries, you're not going to be able to do a whole lot with it. So be mindful that you got to keep it a little wet for it to blend. So mine's a little too dark right there. I'm just going to take a little red and lighten that up a little bit through there. We have all that. I'm going to let that dry. I'm happy with that. So I got some, contour on the outside of the ball, down at the bottom. This is your shaded area, right? And then you got a little bit of shade down here. All right, very good. Got to let that dry. Now we're going to work on the top of our ball. We need a topper. I'm going to rinse my brushes out. Now, I've used a lot of black, so once your water gets this dirty, make sure I can see what I'm doing. It's too dirty. So I'm going to go get some clean water. I want to use white, but I wanted to make it look silver. So I'm going to put some white on. I got a new clean plate because I didn't use up all my other plate. I'm going to use some white. Don't need a lot. And just a little teeny bit of black because I need to make gray or silver. Now I could cheat and just use silver paint, but you can mix it. So I'm going to take my white. There we go. And I'm going to load up my white. And then I'm barely going to take the teeny tip corner and put a little black on it. Just look how little, just a little. And then I'm going to go back and forth. See how dark that is? Black really takes over. But I have a nice gray. Now, if I want that gray to be lighter, I'm going to go get me some white, bring it over. Mix. Still too dark, drag some white, mix. So that looks good. I like that. Just think of, what you want that to look like. How dark do you want it to be? I'll go back to the picture. Now, you're going to take your brush and you are going to have a top, a side, and a bottom on this. So I want to do the top first. I'm going to put the top with a flat edge. I'm just going to drag my brush over like that. Now I have a top. Look at that. That's all I'm going to do. Same color. I'm going to come down at an angle. On the other side, angle. There's my top. Now I'm going to fill it in. I don't want a straight line across. This is on a ball, so you don't want to cut that ball in half. You want to follow the curve of that ball. So go up from your ball and come around, because you do not want a straight line across that ball. Okay? Like that. Now, I like the lines they have there. So now I'm going to take a little white and a little gray, and I'm going to need a little more white. I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to go up. Up, 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 up. If you mess up, that's okay. You can fix it. But just don't make a straight line. And you're going to fill that top in. To get more texture, you go and put some more gray in there. But you want the white and the gray lines to go up. So play with your top for a minute. I'm going to try to get mine the way I want it to look. You can even darken your gray, go light, and then make dark lines going down. That works too. Actually, I like that better. So now I got a top on my, that's going to hang my Christmas ball. Once you get that, you're going to take your little pointy brush, and we're going to make a white line. So load up your pointy brush, spin it around, get the point all nice and like that. I'm going to start right over my bristles, and I'm going to bring that down through the front side into the ball. I'm just going to loop it right there. Now, I use Christmas hooks, so that's what my Christmas hook looks like. If you want to add a string, you're going to leave it going behind the branches and then have it come out down here somewhere. See? That's simple. Now I want some highlights on the ball. So this is dry now. I love acrylic. It doesn't take long. Rinse your brush out. We want all white. You're going to take the white, not with the gray, but just white. Put it on here, and we're going to draw these little lines around our ball. I'm going to put one here, and I'm just going to go just like that. It can be short or long. Down here, you're going to do some lines. And you can even leave your brush on there and go do, 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 do. Back and forth like that. Down here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a line, and then I'm going to go do, 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 back and forth. You like them sound effects? Do, 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 do. That's important. You got to make sound effects when you're painting. Up here, I'm going to do a line. Whoop. Then I'm going to do another one, and then a little squiggle. Then I'm going to do little squiggly lines right here. Whoop. Then another one. And then maybe put a little one right there. It don't matter. This is just for effect. But then we got to do a little here. Well, this is dry, so it's not going to blend. So how do I get it to blend? I'm going to take my original ball color, whatever you did, one little drop, and I'm going to mix those together so I can get a good blend. Put a little teeny bit of the original color and some white. And then I'm going to go in, and I want to carry this color up here. And I want to put some highlights. So same thing with the lowlights that we did. We're going to do some highlights. And I'm just going to bring those in. I'm trying to add some dimension to that ball. And then I'm going to do it on this side. Remember, we had it shaded. So right above your shading, you're going to do, you can do a little, and then we're going to bring that in like that. Yep. So you got shading from this light and this way. Very good. And you're going to let that dry. So now's a good time to go hug a friend, have a little conversation, catch up with your girlfriend. Hey, how you been? I've been good. What about you, girlfriend? Go on and do that. Y'all have done a great job. Everyone's art is going to look different, so go around and check out your friend's art. That would be a lot of fun. The last piece of the puzzle, you have to let everything dry. So after you finish your break, and you can test if it's dry by gently placing your finger on it, and it should come up with no paint. So let it dry. Blow on it, wave on it, whatever. Don't do anything till it's dry. Then you're going to select a word. Any word that you want for this upcoming year that would be a blessing to you. I just chose joy because my joy comes from Jesus. And that's what Christmas is about. It's the birth of Jesus. And so we're here to celebrate the season and to remember why we can have joy in this world. And it's through Jesus Christ and the gift that he gave us through his birth and his death and his resurrection. Now, you can choose to do it one or two ways. What I did, I used a paint pen. So I cheated a little bit. Or you can use the pointy brush. Now, if you use the pointy brush, you're just going to dip a little bit of paint on the end and gently trace it, reload the paint, trace a little bit more, and just do it slowly. If that makes you a little nervous, I have paint pens here. You shake them, you put them down, you press out a little bit of paint, and then you drag the paint down with the pen. And so this is the finished product, Joy to the World. And yours is going to look different than mine. That's what makes it an original. Make sure you sign it and put the year that you painted it. And I thank you for being here tonight. I thank you for the gift that you were giving our missionary friends, Diego and Claudia. And just keep them in your prayers until they can return back to us. Y'all have a wonderful evening. And thank you for coming.